I am interrupting your regularly scheduled meatloaf to tell you something that I usually would save for the end of my video that I want to make sure everybody knows about, so I'm going to put it at the beginning as well. Please go to CHEFKENDAD.INFO for adult cooking classes and aprons and hats that can be personalized. For the small humans, if you want to have them take cooking classes with me, go to outschool.com. Look for Chef Kendad on outschool.com. If you want to find out what we're doing on outschool.com each week, go to CHEFKENDAD.INFO and you will find out what we do each week on outschool.com. If you want to have your small human take a free class on OutSchool, use the coupon code CHEFKENDAD20. CHEFKENDAD20. And they can take a free class with me or any free class on outschool.com. So please like, subscribe, do anything you can to follow me, leave a comment. Thank you. I now return you to your regularly scheduled meatloaf. Made it. Thank God they don't take all my utensils away. I have something to dig with. I don't know why they don't want me to get here, and I don't know who they are, but they don't want you to know what I know, what I'm going to let you know that I know to tell you how to make the stuff we make. So what are we making today? Meatloaf. It's a comfort food. It'll make you feel good eating it, remind you of the days back when Grandma and Mom used to just whip one up in the oven. We're making a very tasty, moist, delicious meatloaf. We're going to make two because some people want some things in it, other people don't want other things in it. It's not going to be your standard just crackers and bread inside of meat. We're making a moist, delicious meatloaf today, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you the best way to make corn on the cob on the stove, and we're going to make mashed potatoes. We're even going to make a gravy to go with it. So there's a lot coming up. You're going to learn a lot. Sit back, put your feet up. Let's go. And here's the ingredients we're going to start with. Let's work our way around. Here's our corn. I'm going to show you the easiest way to shuck it and get it ready to be cleaned and put into the pot for cooking. Potatoes, we're starting with red potatoes. Carrots. Now there are different types of garlic you can use. You can use powdered garlic, clove garlic, and this is something they call jarlic. If somebody calls this jarlic for you, that means you're just trying to insult your cooking, like you're not fancy enough. This minced garlic is perfect and tastes good and can be used in anything. Italian seasoning, parsley flakes, a little bit of A1, the main star of the show, ground beef from Aprons. That's our local store that we get all of our ground beef from. Oregano. Back here we have paprika. Breadcrumbs. A little bit of Worcestershire sauce. Ketchup. And these are options if you want to add them. Onion ring or pepper rings, banana pepper rings, onions. You're going to need 2 large eggs, green pepper, pepper flakes. Not everything you make has to be made from scratch, cut open and sliced. There are a lot of items that you can get over the counter for when you're in a hurry. When you're making a meal and you don't have time to get the potatoes ready, using something like this is a good thing. It can be very good. They taste good, they're easy to make, so why not? So here we go. Let's get started. First, we're going to make the meatloaf. We're going to get that in the oven. While it's cooking, we're going to start our corn. We'll get our mashed potatoes going, and then we're going to make a homemade gravy. Now, I'm going to make it from scratch. You can buy it canned. It comes in a jar. You can just buy it that way and have the gravy ready like that. If you want rolls to go with it, it's up to you. Anything additional you want to add, you can add. To make our meatloaves today, we're going to use 2 bread pans. This is a pan that is used usually for the size of a loaf of bread. I have 2 of them. One I'll be using to make meatloaf with items. Another one with a special request without items. You'll see which without items we're going to use and not use as we go along. You can see there's no need to spray the inside of your pan or treat it. The best thing to do is line it with a piece of parchment paper. As I've said previously, we use Ebel's ground beef. It's the best we can find. It's a local market. If you can find a local market for yours, all the better. This is going to take 2 pounds. This is a 1 pounder you're looking at. We're going to start with 2 all together. Now we're going to cut carrots. We need 2 carrots for each individual meatloaf we're making, so 4 all together. We want to first make sure when we cut them that everything's going to be bite-sized. You don't want anything too big, actually a little bit smaller than bite-sized. We're going to cut off the tips, then we're going to cut off the stems. If you look, you'll notice I did not peel mine. I love the peel being left on. And I'm cutting all of them uniformly thick, about the same thickness all the way around. And I'm saving the biggest part, the end, because that will get to be too big of a piece. So we set that aside. And we just continue on. Now the pile we've made of carrots, you can see they're all the same thickness, but they're still kind of big. They're kind of big for what you would call a small bite. We want to add these to it. We don't want them to be a main feature. So we're going to cut them down just a little bit. Some of the biggest ones, set them aside, and we're going to take the big pieces we had left over. We're going to cut them in half and then do the same thickness. That way we don't have to cut them down more and more and more. All right, we're just going to cook our carrots down just a little bit. We're starting in our cast iron pan, our Lodge cast iron pan. They don't pay me to tell you this, but I will let you know. Lodge is the best cast iron you can get. Now we're going to use vegetable oil instead of olive oil today. Vegetable oil has a higher flash point. It can cook a little bit hotter than olive oil. So we're going to put that in the pan, turn it on medium-high, and when it gets warm, we'll add our carrots. All right, it's been almost 5 minutes. You can hear that sizzle. I love that sizzle. Now, we don't need to add any salt or pepper or spices to the carrots. We're just softening them at this point. We can stir them around, make sure they're cooking evenly, and we're just going to let them cook now. While it's doing that, we can chop our onions. And now we're going to cut our onion. We only need 1 onion, only really half for this meatloaf. We're going to start by cutting off the ends, cut off both of the ends of the onion, and just score the skin a little bit so you can peel off the paper, the first layer. You don't want to leave any of the onion paper on the onion, because if it cooks up, it becomes tough and tastes terrible. Now there we have it peeled, and like I said, we only need half of this onion because one of the meatloafs do not want onion. So we'll just cut it in half, set half aside, and we're not worried about fancy schmancy knife skills like you see on TV. We're just learning how to make meals for our family. You can do whatever you like. Cut it as fancy as you want. But all you need to do is make a good cut into your onion and have enough for your meatloaf. Don't forget to stir your carrots occasionally. Remember, we're not cooking them down. We're just going to get them started. Once it's cooking along nicely, you can turn your heat down. Let them simmer slowly. Green pepper. This is an option. You either add it or you don't. If you like it, you add it. If you don't, you leave it. If you don't want to waste any green pepper, cut the top. Now if you see, you can cut it when the stem just falls out of the ring. You've cut it at the perfect depth. Take 4 fingers, insert, and twist. Most of the seeds are out now. Tap it 2 or 3 times. All of the seeds are out. Reaching inside, you can remove any of the loose, soft, white veins that are in there. Set your seeds aside. You don't want to get them into the green pepper. And chop everything up. To cut it evenly, cut off the bottom, cut down the sides, make some slivers, and cut these down kind of small. Half a green pepper is more than enough. Probably don't even need that much. So as you can see, we did not waste any green pepper. Okay, about 5 minutes, maybe 6. You can see some of the carrots are browning. They're done. They are not soft. They're still firm. They have a very good bite to them. That's all we needed. All right, we're starting with 2 pounds of hamburger. Even though we're making it with separate ingredients, the additional ingredients, the base is still the same. So we have our 2 pounds of hamburger. We're adding 2 eggs. Next is our garlic. And just because this is what most people are going to use, we're going to use our jarlic, which is our garlic. 1 good spoonful is all you need. Unless you like your garlic, you can add just a tad more. If you want to take 3 cloves and mince them up, put them in, that's fine too. You can add 2 full tablespoons of garlic powder if you like as well. Next is ketchup, 3 tablespoons. You can blurble this. This doesn't have to be an exact measurement. 3 tablespoons, that's about 3 tablespoons right there. Next is 3 tablespoons of finely chopped fresh parsley. If you don't have fresh and you have dried, just pour yourself a bit in your handful, cover it till it's covered completely, and call that good. That's another blurble measurement. Now it's breadcrumbs. Panko breadcrumbs work best because they're bigger and drier. They're larger granulated, and they will work better in what we're trying to do. If you just have regular Italian breadcrumbs, use those instead. You don't need a full 3/4 of a cup. Go a little bit less. You can still blurble this as well. And the best way to do that is shake it until it's got a good covering, just like that. That's about 3/4 of a cup. Now we're going to add Italian seasoning. Anywhere from 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 teaspoon. That's the smaller of the spoons. A teaspoon is usually about the size of a dime in your folded hand. I'm going to add another half, like that. I'm going to go with 1 1/2. Now paprika is something of your choice, depending how spicier you want it to be. Paprika is dried sweet red pepper. Basically, you need only a 1/2 teaspoon of the paprika. And remember, 1/2 teaspoon is a smaller one. In your hand, if you cup it and pour about a dime size, like that, you're good. right there. Now, something I didn't tell you in the beginning I missed, but we have to have for this is going to be milk. You need 3/4 of a cup. This is one of the few times I'm going to tell you to actually measure it. Don't blurble this. If you make it too much milk inside there, it'll be too moist and it'll be mushy. And we don't want that. So 3/4 of a cup right in. At this point, you can add salt and pepper to taste. There's so much in there right now. It's so flavorful. I wouldn't do it. I would leave that for people to do at the table if they want to. You don't need much. 1/2 to 3/4 of a tablespoon of each will be fine at this point. I'm going to not add it to mine and let people decide when they eat it. And here we go. I hope you washed your hands because this is the most fun you're going to have today. Going to squeeze all this out. Mix it through fully. Might feel a little wet to you. It's okay. Now, it's kind of solid, but kind of wet. If you have too much pooling of milk, you can add more breadcrumbs. That's a good mix right there. And that's the basics for everything. At this point, we're going to divide it into 2 bowls and add our onion, green pepper, carrots, what everybody wants. Now, I just found out that both meatloafs are going to want carrots, so we're just going to put them into both right now before we separate it. Get it mixed so it's mixed evenly. There we go. Now, if you look at these 2 bowls, you see they're not a true 50-50 split. This one has 75% of the mix. This one has 25% of the mix. I'm making meatloaf for 4 people. Only one doesn't want onion and green pepper. So the one without onion and green pepper will be the 25% split. This one over here with the 75% will get everything else added to it. So this one's going to get onion and green pepper. We're going to throw that in. There's our onion and our green pepper mixed together. And if your hands are clean, there we go. And that's a good looking meatloaf right there. Now, I've said this quite a few times. I'll probably say it at least 6 more times. Preheating is not a myth. It really is important. So we're going to preheat our oven right now to 375 degrees, and it should be hot by the time we get our meatloaf in the pans. Okay, as soon as that oven is preheated, we're going to put both in there, and we're going to get our timer started. In the meantime, what we're going to do is cut our potatoes for our mashed potatoes. Now we're going to start with our potatoes. We're going to cut them up and get ready to start boiling them so we can mash them. I have red potatoes here. I like to have at least 3 potatoes per person. So if I have 4, I'm going to need 12 potatoes for mashed potatoes. You can peel them if you like. I don't. I leave the peel on. You can do it either way. Not only do I like the vitamins you get from the peel, I also like the way it looks. So let's get started cutting these. Okay, our oven just went off. It's preheated. We're going to put both pans of meatloaf in at the same time. 40 minutes uncovered. The smaller one will probably cook faster than the bigger one, so we're going to check it at 20 minutes. So we're going to first set our timer for, let's say, 20 minutes, and then we'll check our first meatloaf. If it needs more, we can set time appropriately. But we also have to have another timer going for a full 40 minutes. So I will set my stove for 20 minutes. I will have Siri set another timer for 40 minutes. Let's get those in the oven. When opening an oven, you've got to remember that whatever temperature you've set it to, that's how hot the air is that is coming out. If you open it, the air coming out right now is 375 degrees. There's only one way to do this safely. I don't care how many times you've opened your oven, every time you do this. You open it to the locking point and you count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't go 5 seconds, you count to 5. Because if you allow yourself 5 seconds, you're going to cheat and get to 4 seconds and then 3, and you're going to open it too early and you can burn yourself. This air can melt your face It can blind your eyes. It can burn your eyebrows. You don't want to do that. So before we put them in, what we're going to do is open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we can open it up all the way. We can put in our biggest meatloaf right there. We can put in our second meatloaf right there. Set our timer for 40 minutes. And we're going to say this. Hey Siri, set a timer for 20 minutes. And now we have 2 timers running. Hey guys, this is just another interruption because of faulty cameras and more technical problems. But after everything was done, I went back and looked. Some more video footage got destroyed. So, to be clear, we set the first timer for 20 minutes to check the progress of the small meatloaf. The second timer we set for 40 minutes was to tell us it's time to put the glazing on the big meatloaf. Remember, the little one did not want glaze. After we have glazed the second one, we put it back in for 40 more minutes, at which point it should be done. And here were our results. The small one was finished perfectly in 40 minutes when we glazed the big one. The big one was done perfectly in 80 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes. And that's hopefully the last correction we got to make to this video. All right, we've got our pan on the stove. We've got our lid on. Water about 2 inches above the potatoes. We're turning it on high. And we're going to let those cook for about 9 minutes, and we'll start checking for how soft they are. Corn on the cob. It's a favorite of ours in this family. You can just cut off the bottom like that. Pull one stalk down and then just unroll it. It's the easiest way I've found to do it. Getting the little hairs out is a matter of rolling around in your hands, and you are done. We can rinse it to get the last little hairs out. Now, if you want to do it the way you've probably done it your whole life, called the old-fashioned way, I guess, you can just pull it down through the side, pull it down to the side, pull it all off like that, break off the stem, whichever way you want. Get as many of the hairs off as you can get. My brother used to smoke those. My brother used to take these, put them in a corncob pipe, and smoke them. You'll understand why when you meet him, why he's like the way he is. Alright, you can see I'm using my cast iron boiling pot for my Dutch oven. I'm going to be using that for cooking the corn on the cob ears. My thumb shows you how deep the water is. It only needs to be deep enough for all of your ears to fit in the water. All we're going to do is bring this to a boil, and when we do, you're going to see something strangely familiar with how we cook corn on the cob, how it's exactly like how we cook pasta. Alright, now we're going to make a glaze for the top. It's something you can add if you like. You don't have to make it, but it's a sweet ketchup-y glaze that we'll put on in the final few minutes of cooking. Start with 3/4 cup of ketchup, your choice, a tablespoon of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of honey. We get ours naturally local. Whoa, it's a little extra, but that'll be okay. Now we can see our potatoes are boiling. We're going to let them boil for 9 minutes. Still waiting on the water for the corn to heat up. We're going to add the corn in just a couple of minutes here. Corn water is now boiling. All we're going to do is put in our corn. Make sure you've washed it and removed as much of the hair as you can. Wait for it to come back to a boil. Alright, our corn is boiling again. So just like our pasta, all we're going to do, shut it off, put on the lid, push it to the back. It can sit there for 5 minutes. It can sit there for an hour. It's going to be perfect. Okay, now we're going to drain our potatoes. As you can see, I have cold water running in the sink because when the potato water goes through here and hits the pipes, it's going to be doing damage. It can harm your pipes. So the cold water offsets that. Now, we're just going to pour it a little bit at a time. You can see it's very, very, very hot. We're letting that cold water act the way it should and cool down the hot. We'll pour some more of the water. A little bit of the potato was going with it. And now we're just going to dump the rest. We're going to let that drain and let the cold water run for about 4 or 5 minutes. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're making mashed potatoes, if your butter and milk are cold when you start mashing, your potatoes are probably going to turn rubbery. I put my butter and my milk directly into the pan that the potatoes just came out of, and I heat them until the butter is melted. And when it's warm enough, I'll shut it off and I'll add my potatoes. And now you can see my milk is warm, my butter is melted. I've added Lowry seasoned salt for flavor. And we're going to shut that off now and add our mashed potatoes and start mashing. Potatoes in. Fire off. Time to mash. And there we have it. Mashed potatoes, Lowry seasoned salt, butter, milk. They're going to be delicious. Put the lid on, let them stay hot. All right, one of the last things I'm going to be making today is a beef gravy. I've run out of prepackaged beef stock. I've also run out of any beef stock and base that I've made myself. So today what I'm going to use is this beef base from Cisco. It's a really good, Imperial's a really good beef base. We're going to hit it with a shot of au jus base, just to set it off a little bit. And that's going to be the gravy we're going to have for our mashed potatoes. All right, as you can see, our water is boiling now. So I'm going to start with my beef base, my Imperial beef base. And I'm going to start with a generous spoon size. I want it to be very flavorful. That's all we're going to need of that. And then we're going to add a little bit of our au jus for a little extra flavor. About a half a spoonful, half a tablespoon. Mix that in. We're going to let it boil again. And once it boils, we're going to thicken it. And when it's all mixed, we're going to thicken it with a slurry, a cornstarch slurry. And here we're making a cornstarch slurry. It's a blurble of cornstarch. Using a fork, we're going to add cold water. It has to be cold water because hot water will cause this to thicken and into clumps and will not thicken your gravy. And here we're going to add our cold water. We have about as much cold water as we had cornstarch and stir it up. If it's very thick, you need to add a little more water. But we just want the consistency of a little bit thicker than white milk. And there we have it. Now our gravy is boiling nicely. Everything's mixed together. We can turn the heat down to low. We're going to taste it and see if it's as strong or light as we like. I think that's perfect. So we're going to get it back to boiling again. And then once it's boiling, using the same fork that we made our slurry with, I call this shocking the gravy. We're just going to pour it in real quick, the whole thing, stir, and watch it thicken. And it's thickening nicely. Instead of adding little bit by little bit and little bit by little bit, there we go. That's perfect. We're going to turn that off now and let that cool down. It'll start to thicken as it cools. And there are both of them. The thick one with the glazing over the top, the thin one with just no glazing for one person. It's gonna be delicious. So, let's just cut a slice and see. It's moist. It's breaking apart. It smells delicious. We'll take a bite. Oh my God, that is so good. When this sets, You'll be able to slice it as thick as you want, as thin as you want, after it cools a bit. And you can take each piece, and if you want it to be a little bit crispier, slice it, fry each side in a frying pan, a cast iron skillet, for about 2 minutes per side. So that's it. We're going to set it all up there, get a picture of everything, and start eating. I just realized, though, I never made the sweet potato mix, and I apologize. Too many things went on, it got set aside. We'll make it for another day. But there's no problem at all, and there should be no looking down on anybody using prepackaged, pre-made, simple boil and bake items. This is not about making 5-star meals. This has always been and always will be about making meals for your family. And there we have it, folks. A meal fit for a king or a queen. There's our finished glazed meatloaf, our finished unglazed meatloaf, perfect corn on the cob, homemade beef gravy, mashed potatoes. The only thing left to do now is eat. So let's get started with that. And here we are the next morning. Who would have believed that any would be left over? This is all we have left of the larger meatloaf with the glaze, mashed potatoes, and gravy. We're going to show you how to heat it up now, how to actually cook it on each side and fry up a piece of meatloaf, and the proper way to heat up your gravy. Now you can see if we look here, the gravy has a bit of a gelatin appearance to it, and that's from using the cornstarch slurry. It's going to jelly it, so to speak. But if we just put it in a pan and heat it slowly, it'll turn back into the gravy that we had last night. We're going to turn the heat on medium. We're going to let it heat, and we'll stir it slowly. We're just going to let that heat on medium and stir it as needed. And here's our leftover glazed piece. You can see on the inside there's still onions and carrots, and it's still looking good inside there, the green pepper. We're going to cut about a 3/4 to a 1-inch piece off, and then we might as well just divide the rest in half and have 3 good pieces out of it. It's solidified overnight in the refrigerator when it cooled down, so it'll make for really good 3 good solid pieces that we're going to be able to fry up and call breakfast. Now you can see here, gravy's still warming up. It's starting to become more of a liquid again. You can see our gravy is starting to bubble there in the middle. So we're going to turn the heat down now to just above low. Medium low. Halfway between medium and low. And it's going to turn out perfect once we have it stirred and we know it's warm enough. We're going to take a taste. We're still going to let that heat a little bit longer, and then we'll turn it down to low once it's hot. In the meantime, we check our pan. It was preheated, but we're making it hot again, and we'll start cooking our meatloaf. Now, once again, even on medium-low, you can see that it's boiling up through. So it's hot enough now. We're going to turn this completely down to low and let it just sit, and we'll still stir it occasionally. But now our gravy is back to perfect. In the meantime, we're going to set our meatloaf right on the frying pan. You can hear that sizzle. No need for olive oil, no need for vegetable oil. There's enough moisture in the meat to get it to brown up and cook on its own. Alright, it's been cooking for about 1.5 to 2 minutes. We're just going to flip it over. Look how beautifully brown that is. It's still moist, it's still glazed, it's still delicious. We've cooked the sides so it heats the center and we'll be good. We're going to stir our gravy just to keep it going. For our mashed potatoes, Chef Mike is going to do a good job with these. And when I say Chef Mike, of course, I'm talking about the microwave. Highly underrated, highly underutilized. They will be perfect. I will do about 30 seconds Stir them 30 to 45 more seconds, stir them, and they should be perfect. If you like, you can add a little more butter to them. I'm just going to leave them how they are and add gravy. Okay, now it's time to take off the meatloaf. Let's check the other side. Looks beautiful. Looks beautiful. So we can turn off the heat now. Stir our gravy one more time. Turn off that heat. And here's our 2 plates ready to go. You can see the steam coming off the mashed potatoes. If you're bringing your mashed potatoes cold out of the refrigerator and putting them directly in a microwave, you need to probably go 2 minutes, 2 full minutes. If not, if you bring it all at room temperature like everything should be, 45 seconds should be the longest you need to heat up your mashed potatoes. It's up to you how you do it. Just keep checking it and make sure it's not overcooked. And now to add the gravy. Beautiful. And that is what we here call breakfast. So nice, I did it twice. And there it is, folks. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, gravy, corn on the cob. It's a delicious meal. I know you're probably used to growing up with a drier meatloaf. That's how it used to be done in the 60s, 70s. More crackers, more bread, more ketchup. This is a delicious, moist, tasty dish you should love, your family will love. Try it. Please, let me know what you think. I'm going to keep my begging down a little bit this time. Please like and subscribe. I ask all the time for that, and I'm going to ask again on every video. Remember, this is Ken's Kitchen. This is where I live. Open Monday through Sunday, 24/7. Which is obvious, because I went to bed last night with this, woke up first thing again to get this on for breakfast. So, like, subscribe, comment, whatever else you have to do to follow me. Please go to CHEFKENDAD.INFO for hats, aprons, and I can personalize them. Go to CHEFKENDAD.INFO for information for what we'll be doing each week on Outschool.com. Go to CHEFKENDAD on Outschool.com. And that's it. That's all I'm going to ask you this time. So please like, please subscribe, please comment, please follow me. That will help me grow. Leave comments. Let me know how I'm doing. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Enjoy your meatloaf. Here's the ingredients we're going to start with. Let's work our way around.